In the beautiful hills of Sicily, Lorenzo Vitali drives into his secluded mansion/winery accompanied by his adolescent son. However, Vitali realizes something is amiss when he sees no one around. A closer look reveals his men sprawled on the floor everywhere dead. Vitali advises his son to stay quiet in the car while he investigates. Unfortunately, the scenario inside the house is similar to the outside, as he finds more and more people incapacitated. Luckily, he finds 3 of his men apprehending the culprit, Robert McCall, in the basement. However, Robert isn't apologetic for his actions. He tells Vitali to return what he had taken and gives him 9 seconds to determine his fate. Vitali laughs, thinking he has the upper hand, but Robert quickly turns the tables around, eliminating Vitali's men and using a gun to incapacitate Vitali. After watching Vitali crawl to a barrel, Robert shoots him dead and retrieves some keys from his belt buckle. Robert leaves the winery and is surprised to see Vitali's son. He warns the son to stay put, but the son shoots at Robert with a rifle. Robert turns around, firing blindly, causing the scared boy to drop the rifle and run away. Robert realizes that he has sustained a gunshot wound to his back. The intensity of the wound makes him contemplate ending his life, but his gun is out of bullets. Robert takes the ferry to go back to the mainland. Unfortunately, he slips unconscious due to blood loss and shock while driving on the Amalfi coast. Luckily, a police officer, Gio Benucci, finds him and takes him to the local doctor. The doctor, Enzo Aricio, is reluctant to treat a gunshot wound, but he does so anyway. A few days later, Robert regains consciousness and finds himself being treated by Enzo. Enzo explains all that happened and wonders whether Robert is a good man deserving to be saved. He allows him to stay at his house while he recovers. Once Robert feels healthy enough, he strolls through the small, beautiful town of Altamonte. He is pleased by the friendliness the people project and falls in love with the town's serenity. In a restaurant, Robert meets up with Gio and his daughter. Later, Robert contemplates what it would mean to live in Altamonte. He takes this as a chance to escape the demons that haunt him and grieve over his dear friend Susan Plummer's death. Robert anonymously calls CIA agent Emma Collins, reporting illegal drug trade in Sicily. Emma wants to know who the caller is, but Robert gives the information he wants to. He says the winery is a front and all the evidence is back in Sicily, so Emma should act fast. Robert realizes that the townspeople fear the Camorra gang that terrorizes them, demanding weekly payments. He sees the leader Marco harass and assault a fishmonger called Angelo, warning him to make his payments or else. Meanwhile, Emma gets a team to Sicily. Everyone is shocked by what they find in the winery, considering Vitali wasn't on the CIA's radar. They find millions of cash and drugs, confirming that Vitali's winery was used to fund various terrorist activities in America. Robert visits Angelo's store, but Angelo refuses to accept payment, saying he could never charge Enzo's friend. After checking Robert's wound, Enzo confirms that it is healed nicely. Following this, Robert decides to go back to America. He packs up his stuff, but when he gets outside, he realizes that everyone is running to Angelo's shop. Robert follows the people and realizes that Angelo's shop is on fire. The people try to extinguish the flames, but the fire is too great for them. Robert looks around and spots Marco and his men, realizing they are behind the arson. He decides to stay in town and help Angelo with the renovations. Robert is pleasantly surprised when Amina, a restaurant owner, invites him on a date. The days go by, and Gio discovers a black van parked outside Angelo's shop minutes before it catches fire. He calls the Italian Central Police for inquiry into the van's owner. Robert is at Amina's restaurant when Emma approaches him. Surprisingly, Robert knows who Emma is and how she found him. Emma wants to know why Robert was at the winery and whether he killed the men in the winery, but Robert only says that he found Emma's number in a black book. One day, Gio goes to pick up his daughter, but is informed that another police officer has taken her. He rushes to his house only to be ambushed by Marco's men, who have held his wife and daughter hostage. They beat him up and threaten to eliminate his family if he continued interfering with their operations, referring to the arson investigation. Robert meets up with Emma again. She has researched who Robert is, but found no trace of his whereabouts on any database, meaning that he is a ghost. Robert chuckles at this as he knows the reputation that precedes him. Emma explains that Vitali had been on Interpol's most wanted list for 10 years and had been running a cyber scam, siphoning money off government agencies, offshore accounts, and pensions. He asks her to dig deep into why the terrorists would smuggle drugs through Sicily, as it's one of the safest ports in the world. Emma promises to, but in return wants Robert to answer why he chose to give her the tip. Marco and his men approach Gio at a restaurant, demanding he organize a boat for them. Suddenly, Marco locks eyes with Robert and walks over to his table. He warns him to stay away from his business, but Robert twists his hand and presses on a nerve ending that affects brain function. He says he loves the town and orders Marco and his men to leave after confiscating his gun. Later, Marco and his men wait outside the restaurant for Robert. He sneaks and attacks them, eliminating 2 men by hitting them with a car. He then eliminates Marco by breaking his hand and using his knife to stab him repeatedly, with 1 fatal stab in the neck. A deadly bomb goes off in Rome, and Emma suspects Vitali's customers were behind the attack. She seeks out the head of police, demanding information on some suspects. She feels that the drug supplier of the drugs found in Vitali's house is located in Naples. She interrogates 1 man, and soon the CIA apprehends several drug dealers. After the raids, the police chief visits Vincent, telling him all about the CIA's crackdown. However, Vincent is angry and has his men torture the police chief for information on who eliminated Marco. Emma is on the hunt for the terrorists behind the bombing when she gets a call from Robert, saying that the people behind the bombing are the Camorra, not terrorists. This call saves her life as her car explodes seconds later. She is rushed to the hospital and tells her partner about the Camorra. The Camorra plans to coerce the townspeople out of their housing, intending to take over Altamonte for commercialization. That evening, Vincent and his men drag Gio to the town square, calling out for the man who killed Marco. When no one comes forward, Vincent grazes Gio's ear and threatens to eliminate him. Finally, Robert comes into the center, confessing that he had eliminated Marco. He says that he had warned him against bothering the people, but he refused. Robert explains that he has found peace in Altamonte and won't let anyone take it away. Vincent wants to eliminate Robert to teach the townspeople a lesson. Before he can shoot though, Enzo fires his weapon, prompting the other townspeople to start recording the ordeal. This forces Vincent and his men to back down, but promise to return soon. Later that night, Robert sneaks into Vincent's estate and eliminates his men using a silencer. Slowly but surely, he makes his way into the house, shooting, stabbing, and strangling Vincent's bodyguards. Eventually, Vincent is woken up by blood dripping on his pillow. He looks up and exits his bed seconds before the glass ceiling breaks and a body falls to the bed. He arms himself and calls out for his men, finding them dead. Fear grips him as he realizes that he is alone, and he fires his weapon, but Robert knocks him out. When he regains consciousness, he finds that Robert has shoved many drugs into his body and is 6 minutes from dying from an overdose. Vincent staggers outside his house, foaming in the mouth, with Robert following and taunting him. Unfortunately, Vincent walks into traffic and a car hits him. He continues staggering away and eventually succumbs to his own drugs. Robert leaves him there in the street like a dog. In the aftermath, Emma watches the news in delight as various members of the Camorra gang are arrested. Robert visits her at the hospital and gives her a bag of money he had taken from Vitali's house. He reveals that the money belongs to an elderly man who had lost his pension after working as a bricklayer all his life. Robert had tracked the money and stumbled into the drug operation cell. Emma is surprised that Robert would risk his life for someone he met just once. In Boston, Massachusetts, Emma gives the couple the money Robert had given her. The couple is delighted now that they don't have to lose their home and wonder why someone would come through for a stranger. At work, Emma receives a promotion for her efforts. She also gets a package delivered to her. She opens it to find a black book that belonged to Susan Plummer, her mother. She realizes that Robert had precisely called her and given her the tip so she could move up from being a simple call operator to a valuable field agent. Robert continues living in Altamonte, enjoying the peace and serenity that comes with the Camorra being eliminated. He joins the locals in celebrating after their football team wins a tournament. Do leave a comment telling us your favorite part of the movie. Hit the like button, subscribe to our channel, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss the next recap. Until next time, folks, take care and goodbye.